Clint Eastwood's 7 most coveted girlfriends.
Without uttering a word, that weathered squint, that steely gaze, and that silent commanding presence could fill a room. Clint Eastwood has been the cinematic embodiment of American manhood for more than 60 years, starting with The Unnamed Gunman in Sergio Leone's westerns and continuing through his critically praised directing work. He has a long and storied acting career. But there's something else totally behind that famous poncho and behind that trademark scowl. An enigma to Hollywood elites for decades due to his complex web of desires, attractions, and love interests. In order to delve into the women who sparked the interest of the man who enchanted America, we are removing the veil off one of Hollywood's most intimate legends today.
These aren't your average Hollywood stunning women.
Across time, space, and culture, they stand as the embodiment of the most desirable feminine traits in film. These 7 ladies, ranging from American bombshells to European arthouse gods, reflect the varied interests of a man whose charisma has stood the test of time.
How do you compare icons? Do you think it's the gravitational pull of 2 strong personalities, a similar artistic interest, or something else entirely?
Maybe it's that unquantifiable quality of a star that everyone can feel the moment it walks into a room. It's impossible to copy or replicate it. Here in this exclusive presentation, we're tallying up the 7 ladies that, along the course of Clint Eastwood's illustrious career, accelerated his heart rate. These anecdotes capture the essence of Hollywood's most reserved star and the ladies who broke through his famed reserve, from verified affairs to whispered flirtations, from professional admiration to faraway worship. They offer a captivating portrait of their relationships. Prepare yourself for an investigation into the enigmatic woman who won over the man who would remain nameless. Bring your 6 shooters and buckle up. And I'm telling you what, the first item on this list could be the most shocking thing you've ever heard about Clint. Let us start with a film goddess who embodied the height of Mediterranean elegance and beauty in a passionate encounter with a man in the midst of the ocean at night.
Counting 7. The legendary Marilyn Monroe. The impossible aspiration.
Prior to his transformation into the faceless man. Even before Clint Eastwood became famous, a golden blonde was reshaping American sexuality and attracting audiences across the world. As a young, struggling Eastwood was trying to break into the industry, Marilyn Monroe, the epitome of feminine charm, vulnerability, and star power, had already ruled Hollywood. After all these years, Clint supposedly confessed in an unusually candid interview on the Golden Age of Hollywood that Marilyn was the type of woman men never get over. Eastwood was a contract player at Universal in the early 1950s, taking small roles in forgettable films like Tarantula and Revenge of the Creature, while Monroe was on the rise to stardom. Their careers' timing created a poignant what-if scenario that has captivated film buffs for generations. While Monroe was looking stunning, there was also something powerful and fragile about her. Hollywood legend has it that a young Clint Eastwood was so smitten with Marilyn Monroe that he wrote an audacious letter to her studio, requesting, no, begging, to be cast in any production starring Monroe. They lived in separate worlds, yet they were both part of the same industry. I never met her officially, Clint once said to a film historian documenting the era. The studio system was tight back then, and the idea of coupling an unknown with their most expensive asset was unfathomable. It seems the letter never received a response. Sometimes I wonder if that's for the best, he allegedly said, his normally so controlled demeanor softening. When their careers finally diverged, Monroe's ascension toward her sad end in 1962 and Eastwood's ascent to stardom with A Fistful of Riches in 1964, it made this unrequited admiration all the more heartbreaking. At the same time that she was the last great studio star and he was one of the first of a new generation of actors who would shape the rebellious, independent cinema of the 60s and beyond, they were on opposite sides of a watershed moment in Hollywood history. Many have wondered what a pairing between Monroe and Eastwood would have looked like on screen, the film noir thriller with Monroe as the femme fatale to his detective or a western with her as the saloon girl who wins over Eastwood's jaded gunslinger. The possibilities are endless when it comes to the captivating chemistry that could have been created between their luminous vulnerability and his stoic reserve. Monroe was more than a pretty face to Clint, she was a symbol of an era in Hollywood that was passing away at the same time as his own career was taking off, and his love for her goes beyond simple physical attraction. It's a recognition of her special place in cinematic history and the price she had to pay for her fame. Next on Clint's list is a European goddess who, despite Monroe's status as an unreachable ideal, supposedly had the chance to reject the nameless man in person. Sophia Loren, Mediterranean magnificence, number 6 on the list, has 2 children, a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, both of whom are lovely and adorable. The unparalleled Sophia Loren, an Italian bombshell who soared from poverty to worldwide stardom, brought a refined European sensuality that was completely different from the American pin-up style of the 1950s and 1960s.
And if there was ever a woman who could match Clint Eastwood's screen presence inch for inch, curve for curve, and intensity for intensity, it would be her. Rumor has it that Loren was referred to by Clint Eastwood as the most naturally seductive woman alive in a private conversation between the two filmmakers while they were filming The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This wasn't merely idol worship. According to Hollywood insiders in the mid-1960s, when both stars were achieving meteoric rises to fame, Loren having won Oscars for Two Women and Eastwood becoming a worldwide sensation thanks to Leon's spaghetti westerns, their rumored attraction had supposedly started years earlier during a tragic meeting at the Cannes Film Festival. There was a private dinner, champagne was poured, and the French Riviera served as the ideal setting for the meeting of two icons, whose allure went beyond languages and borders, according to film industry veterans who were there. Clint made his feelings known to Sophia in the refined indirect way of the time. As the Mediterranean breeze blew through the open windows of the hotel restaurant, conversation flowed freely. What followed is now legendary in Hollywood. Rumor has it that Loren graciously turned down Eastwood's advances, explaining that her heart belonged to producer Carlo Ponti. They were married for a long time until his death in 2007. There are many who believe that the irrefutable chemistry between the two stars led to a brief but intense affair that they both agreed to keep private. Whether or not this is true is something only Clint and Sophia can say for sure, and their refusal to discuss it in interviews has led to decades of speculation and solidified this possible pairing as one of the most fascinating might-have-beens in Hollywood history. The intriguing thing about the Eastwood-Loren connection isn't just their physical attractiveness, it's also their parallel career paths. Both actors rose above their sex symbol status to become respected performers and, eventually, formidable forces in front of and behind the camera. Their performances stood out from the crowd because of the honesty and grit they brought to the role, and their dignified demeanor helped propel them from celebrity to cultural icon. There's something about European actresses of that era, Clint said while talking about foreign cinema, that honesty is compelling.
Rather than trying to mask their strength with fake sweetness, these actresses owned their power, sensuality, and intelligence. Their careers did cross paths on occasion at Hollywood events and international film festivals, but they never starred in a film together.
It's a shame they never got the chance to do so.
The intense tension between their respective expressiveness, her passionate expressiveness and his laconic masculinity, must have been electric on-screen. Rather, their bond is shrouded in rumors of what might have been a fleeting instant when two of cinema's most formidable forces were entwined before striking out on their respective legendary careers. However, whereas Sophia Loren personified European refinement and artistic legitimacy, the next name on Clint's list embodied something entirely different. An image of French sensuality that swept the Western world in the 60s.
Alright. You've been studying it.
No, you've completely forgotten about it now.
5. Bright Bardot. The French fantasy. She's the reason every American man started growing a mustache.
This satirical comment attributed to Clint Eastwood in an interview from the 1970s hardly touches on his apparent obsession with the French bombshell Brigitte Bardot. For Eastwood, whose career was built on redefining traditional masculinity, Bardot's fearless approach to her image and her art clearly resonated. The blonde phenomenon who scandalized and revolutionized European cinema represented something completely new in the cultural landscape, a liberated, unapologetic sexuality that broke with conventional morality and established Bardot as the ultimate symbol of the sexual revolution. She, too, was changing cultural expectations, but in the other direction, by destroying feminine stereotypes of propriety and restraint and, according to French tabloids of the time, by deconstructing the heroic male
archetype.
Rumor has it that they met secretly in Paris in the late 1960s, and their encounter is now cinematic legend. At the height of their powers and allure, two icons representing American and European cinema converged in the City of Lights. According to a memoir written by a longtime Parisian paparazzo, there was a suite at the Ritz that was very private and discreet.
Although they arrived and left separately, for 48 hours, the two most sought-after actors in cinema shared that space.
The hotel staff was sworn to secrecy. There is no photographic proof of this meeting, and the representatives of both stars have repeatedly denied the rumor over the years. However, the rumor continues in part because the couple appears to be the ideal contrast, her expressive emotions against his stoic reserve, her European liberation against his American frontier ethic. According to what is known, the two actors were professional admirers of each other's work. Bardot supposedly lauded the visual style and minimalist acting approach of Eastwood's Leon westerns, while Clint gushed over Bardot's performances in European films like Viva Maria and Contempt, reportedly. Speaking to film critic Judith Christ regarding international stars, Clint Eastwood told Christ, "What Bardot did was brave. She didn't just play sexual characters, she brought her whole self to those roles. Consequences be damned. This is an act of bravery that few performers are willing to undertake." Their connection is further complicated by the fact that their careers have taken remarkably similar paths. Both men essentially retired from acting while they were in the prime of their careers. Eastwood transitioned to directing while taking increasingly selective acting roles, while Bardot left film altogether in 1973 to concentrate on animal rights activism. Whether or not they met in that Parisian hotel room, the Eastwood-Bardot connection is a fascinating cultural intersection. Both seemed to realize the limits of being defined mainly by their physical appearance and sought more meaningful applications of their talents and fame. Music. 4. And Margaret, The Fiery Temptation. Two legends who shook up their respective film canons, may be brought together by an appreciation for each other's groundbreaking work. However, while Bardot stood for freedom in Europe, our next subject embodied something distinctively American, a risky, hip-swaying sexuality that brought a rock-and-roll vigor to the silver screen. Something about the Swedish-American bombshell in Margaret drew Clint Eastwood, as far as anyone could tell, because she was, in many ways, his female counterpart, dangerous, untamed, and bursting at the seams with an energy that couldn't be contained by typical Hollywood roles. Some attractions are based on opposites, while others on recognizing a kindred spirit. A longtime assistant director who worked with Clint Eastwood during his late 1960s rise to superstardom revealed that she was exactly Clint's type, wild, red-headed, and exuding danger. The timing makes perfect sense, as Eastwood was obsessed with her Viva Las Vegas era and tried to cast her in multiple of his westerns. In the same year that In Margaret was igniting audiences with her performance opposite Elvis Presley in Viva Las Vegas, 1964, Clint Eastwood was revolutionizing the Western anti-hero in Sergio Leone's seminal films. The two women embodied a new type of on-screen presence, sexual, morally ambiguous, and crackling with an intensity that rendered their contemporaries look stale and dated. What's intriguing about Eastwood's apparent obsession with In Margaret in his films is how it reveals his knowledge of his own filmmaking process. The westerns that brought him fame weren't simply about gunfights and frontier justice, were all about building up a tension that would occasionally explode into violence. And who could do it better than an actress whose performances hinted at an uncontrollable volcano of passion? Clint was determined to cast her as the troubled saloon woman from High Plains Drifter, according to a casting director from that time, but the studio was resistant. Clint eventually caved, but he was unhappy about it. Meanwhile, And Margaret was battling Hollywood's expectations of her. After becoming a sex symbol in films like Viva Las Vegas and Bye Bye Birdie, she was determined to prove her serious acting chops, a journey that would culminate in Oscar nominations for Tommy and Carnal Knowledge. Even though Eastwood was becoming more and more of a household name, playing the lead female role in a western might have felt like a step backward. Despite this, the careers of these two powerhouses would remain in close proximity to one another throughout the 1970s, though they would never actually cross paths. Both were overcoming the limitations imposed by their early stereotypes. They were both battling personal demons, her alcoholism and his complicated love life, but they also recognized something in each other, according to a producer who worked with both actors. She was proving herself as a dramatic actress, and he was establishing himself as a director with a unique vision. The link between Eastwood and Margaret stands as one of the most fascinating professional near misses in Hollywood, characterized by that same intensity and refusal to be confined by what Hollywood believed they should be. However, there are times when honoring someone's journey necessitates letting them go their own way. The explosive chemistry that could have been created on screen between their minimalist stoicism and her expressive physicality is something that can only be imagined. Instead, their relationship is characterized by reported admiration from a distance. They are two shooting stars whose paths have brought them dangerously close without actually colliding. Next on Clint's list was Sharon Stone, the menacing blonde, who embodied a statuesque vision of feminine power, who would co-star with him in one of the most underrated westerns of the 1990s. In contrast to In Margaret, who represented a fiery American sensuality, this came and went. In the early 1990s, Clint Eastwood had made the leap from movie star to respected director, with critically acclaimed and Oscar-nominated features like Bird and Unforgiven. At this crossroads in his career, he crossed paths with Sharon Stone, who, following her breakout role in Basic Instinct, was struggling to establish herself as more than just a pretty face. Stone not only starred but also co-produced, an unusual power position for a female actor at the time. Their shared experience of navigating Hollywood's complex power structures apparently formed a bond between the two that went beyond mere professional courtesy. "There was definitely something there," confided a crew member. Eastwood wasn't the director, but he had a supporting role as a gunfighter turned preacher court in Sam Raimi's 1995 western The Quick and the Dead. Production. You'd see them huddled in conversation between takes, laughing at private jokes, the caption read. While they conversed, Stone would lightly touch his arm, not quite flirtatious, but certainly comfortable. Clint, who was notoriously reclusive on set, went out of his way to find her. From these exchanges, rumors of a passionate affair between the two celebrities were spun by the gossip magazines of the day. Throughout the film's creation and release, the newspapers were filled with headlines about Clint's new quick draw, Sharon Stone's enchanting performance as an old gunslinger, and the rumored hidden romance between Sharon and Clint. How the two celebrities dealt with the rumors, with knowing smiles and non-denial denials that encouraged greater speculation, was what made them so captivating. During a press junket, Stone allegedly arched an eyebrow and paused pregnantly before answering, "I admire Clint's directing style," which threw the crowd into knowing laughter when questioned directly about the chemistry. While Eastwood remained characteristically reserved, his colleagues noticed that he looked more excited when talking about Stone's role in the picture. His unusually kind comment to her was, "She's got good instincts," which he shared with American Film magazine. "She knows the importance of controlling her emotions and actions on screen, and it's not only in her acting career." Given that the film's master of understatement said it last, the word restraint had extra weight. It was very flattering for Eastwood to say that another actor understood restraint, especially when that actor's breakout role in Basic Instinct had depended on anything but subtlety. Their roles as sex icons from different decades in Hollywood made the possible link between Eastwood and Stone all the more interesting. He had nailed down what it meant to be macho in the 60s and 70s. For the 1990s, she was the embodiment of new feminine strength. On screen, their eroticism was heightened by both of them. His is through subtle hostility, whereas hers is more obvious. Their director, who worked with both actors, made the observation that they're really similar. Neither one takes any chances. As long as it's for the character, they're both ready to be hated. That's unusual, particularly for famously handsome performers. Every attractive person aspires to have admirers gushing over them. Rather than being liked, Clint and Sharon would rather be feared. Nobody knows for sure if their relationship progressed beyond casual flirting and professional admiration except the celebs involved. The fact remains that their collaboration on The Quick and the Dead sparked enough interest to keep Hollywood rumor mills turning for months, and viewers were left to wonder what would have transpired if these two fiery blondes had worked together more frequently. Our next subject, however, was the ultimate embodiment of classic Hollywood sex appeal, in contrast to Sharon Stone, who stood in for Eastwood's modern Hollywood. "You're a lovely woman and all, but you're definitely not what I was hoping for." I went on to say that I've always looked like Raquel Welch, the Hollywood equivalent of a sex symbol. Very few have performed to Raquel Welch's dazzling intensity. Welch became possibly the most iconic sex symbol of the late 1960s and beyond, the time she emerged from the primordial seas in that famous fur bikini 1 million years ago. Her reign would continue far into the 1970s and beyond. During the same time that Clint Eastwood was establishing a new kind of male allure, Welch was supposedly the perfect feminine match. A longtime camera operator who worked on multiple Eastwood projects said that Clint once said that he took certain roles solely to go on set with Welch. I don't know whether anything ever came of it, but they ran into each other at enough industry functions for him to have seen it in his gaze. Whenever she walked into a room, he would momentarily lose his signature Eastwood cool. The fact that it stands as a symbol of the meeting point of two related Hollywood phenomena is what makes this attraction stand out. By adding a ferocious independence and smoldering intensity that distinguished her from the more innocent bombshells of the preceding decade, Welch transformed the Hollywood sex symbol at the same time that Eastwood was reinventing the American male through his taciturn, morally ambiguous characters. In the 1970s, Eastwood reportedly tried multiple times to conceive films starring both himself and Welch. According to sources within the business, among the intriguing concepts was a western in which Clint would have played the role of a gunslinger whom Raquel hired to help her get revenge for her husband's murder, but the two would have gotten romantically involved. An active producer during that period confirmed that the script definitely existed. Blood Moon, also known as Blood on the Moon, was a film that was almost made in 1975. The idea was a smashing success with the studio heads. The combination of Eastwood and Welch would have assured huge box office receipts, but delays caused by scheduling issues meant that opportunity never came. There may have been other personal considerations that exacerbated those scheduling issues. During this time, the stars' love lives were getting more difficult. Eastwood is currently seeing actress Sandra Lockcatch, while Welch is juggling her marriages to two different men, the second being producer Patrick Curtis.
The chance to collaborate professionally kept slipping away as their individual lives took divergent paths.
What makes Eastwood's rumored attraction to Welch noteworthy is that it reflected his admiration for a woman who, like to him, had overcome early prejudice to build a successful career. Welch, like he had risen from the ranks of the man with no name to become a major player in the film industry, had to overcome the limitations imposed on her by her sex symbol reputation in order to be respected for her acting.
A filmmaker who collaborated with both actors separately speculated, "I think what interested Clint about Raquel wasn't just the obvious.
It was her struggle to be perceived as more than a physical type, which mirrored his own. There was an understanding between them that transcended mere physical attraction because they were both confined in golden cages that they had constructed." Even though they never worked together on screen, Eastwood and Welch are inseparable as the archetypal male and female Hollywood stars of their day. The scorching intensity and physical presence of these two legends shifted the expectations of audiences for leading men and women.
One of cinema's great might have dumpsters is their unfinished professional cooperation.
An unlikely couple that may have melted celluloid with their on-screen chemistry. The last person on Clint's list exemplifies something very different, though, than Raquel Welch, who stood for the height of conventional Hollywood beauty.
An intimidating talent whose ferocious intellect and no-nonsense demeanor drew an entirely new type of admirer.
We would use that real footage to start each week's program. Engage a handful of authors to develop a backstory for F.A. Dunaway. Only a handful of Hollywood icons can match F.A. Dunaway's formidable combination of stunning good looks, incredible acting chops, and unwavering determination. Dunaway earned Hollywood folklore for her intense performances on and off film, which she showcased from her breakthrough in Bonnie and Clyde to her Oscar-winning role in Network. She was more than simply a stunning beauty. As someone who was no stranger to artistic ambition, Clint Eastwood supposedly found this combination of beauty and ferocious intelligence fascinating.
One seasoned producer characterized Eastwood and Dunaway as the powerhouses of the 1970s film industry.
Their now famous initial encounter perfectly encapsulates the intriguing tensions between them and has become one of Hollywood's most recycled storylines. It was the middle of the 1970s, and the scene was a dinner party at the house of director Arthur Penn. Seated across from each other were Eastwood and Dunaway, who were both incredibly famous and influential. The film industry, acting methods, and artists' duties to their audiences allegedly became the subject of a passionate argument that started as a civil discussion. They engaged in a high-energy intellectual debate for hours, according to an actor who saw the discussion. They weren't actually arguing, but they were criticizing each other's ideas.
Your gaze was captivated. To them, the room as a whole was just background noise.
Hollywood legend has it that as the verbal sparring escalated, one of Penn's fellow guests muttered, "Should we separate them before this gets ugly?" Penn allegedly chuckled and replied, "Are you kidding?" and Clint was enthralled. Not only were these two stunning individuals at odds with one another, but it was a rare occurrence in an industry where male and female stars parodied each other, but it was a meeting of equals nonetheless.
Neither the height nor the fame of Eastwood's intensity frightened Dunaway.
Instead, she balanced it against her own. A director who collaborated with both actors said that Clint was accustomed to commanding attention wherever he went. To his surprise, he finds himself face to face with someone who is just as determined, gifted, and unyielding as he is.
For an actor like Eastwood, that poses no danger.
The effect is euphoric. Neither of them was in a committed relationship with the other, but they were both seeing other people. It would appear that the personal interest and professional esteem lasted all the way until the 1980s. Rumor has it that Eastwood and Dunaway each considered a number of potential projects that would have brought them together in a film. Screenwriters from that era would have cast them as rival lawyers who start an affair despite representing different sides of a murder case in a movie called Deadlock, which almost got made around 1982.
The script dealt with criminal thrillers and romantic dramas.
The Clint and the studio had creative disagreements that ended up killing the show, even though the chemistry in the test readings was exceptional. The most interesting thing about the Eastwood-Dunaway interaction is the way it depicts the most nuanced kind of attraction. The mental, creative, and physical kinds of things as well. Reportedly, Eastwood saw in Dunaway more than simply a lovely woman. He saw a soulmate whose commitment to her work and refusal to give an inch matched his own. "They're both perfectionists," remarked a cinematographer who has worked with both stars independently. "Both are open to doing it again until they achieve the desired effect. They are both doggedly committed to their goals. Either you'd get the best picture ever made or the set would collapse if you put them together. Perhaps one or the other." Eastwood and Dunaway are inseparable as iconic personalities of American filmmaking from the 1970s, even though they never worked together on screen. Performers who, at a watershed moment in Hollywood history, added nuance and ferocity to their shows. Maybe the most intellectually interesting thing about Eastwood's purported charms is their unconsumed partnership. A gathering of rational and emotional beings. The ladies who gave rise to a myth. What Clint's inventory discloses, curious in the lessons we can glean from investigating the 7 ladies who supposedly captivated Clint Eastwood's interest during his career. His choices show more than just the allure of these stunning females, they also shed light on the development of Hollywood over the course of Eastwood's extraordinary career, the nature of attraction and compatibility, and more. Take note of the diversity in his selections first. Eastwood favors a diverse range of feminine energies, from the delicate sensuality of Monroe to the ferocity of Dunaway. From the European emancipation of Bardo to the all-American voluptuousness of Welch, his range as an actor and filmmaker is on full display here, and it serves as a reminder that true love has many facets. Second, despite their variations, all 7 women have certain traits. They all performed with conviction and intensity, questioned authority figures, and showed a level of dedication to their art that belied their sex symbol status. The commonalities here indicate that, for Eastwood and many others, it's the substance that keeps people interested, not the flash. "I've always been attracted to strong women," Eastwood once admitted in an interview with the Directors Guild, revealing a rare moment of candor about himself. In real life as well as on television. Strong, independent women who aren't hesitant to pursue their dreams, such lucidity is captivating. What's interesting is that a lot of these women mirrored Eastwood's own female equivalents in various ways. He was intense and perfectionist as an artist, and Dunaway reflected that. In his transition from sex symbol to serious artist, Welch drew parallels. His risk-taking and ability to portray characters with gray areas in their morality shone through in stone. Every one of them stood for something that Eastwood stood for, but in a more feminine form. Perhaps we are attracted not only to things that enhance our appearance, but also to things that mirror our own essence in a new way. This raises some deep questions regarding attraction. These ladies, who were also reshaping femininity during their time periods, would naturally captivate a man whose career has revolved around investigating American masculinity. For some older viewers, Eastwood's list brings back fond memories of a time when Hollywood stars had gravitas that is sorely lacking in today's world of celebrity. Beautiful and strong in their own right, these 7 women embodied an ideal of mature femininity, self-assured without being fragile, sexual without being exploitative, and devout without being ostentatious. For whatever reason, that generation's actresses were unique. The film historian made the observation while talking about the golden and silver periods of Hollywood. They rose through the ranks in an industry that used them but also provided them with chances to rise above it, all because of their innate abilities and determination. Those that were successful went on to become more than just famous people. They shot to fame. Eastwood has experienced Hollywood from every viewpoint for 7 decades, which may be why his reported charms are so fascinating. Eastwood has seen the fame machine firsthand throughout his career, from his days as a contract player to his present position as an industry veteran. His analysis of the women who stood out amidst the glitz and glitter is persuasive. Ultimately, we learn just as much about Clint Eastwood from his wish list of ideal leading ladies as we do about the ladies themselves. It depicts a multifaceted individual who places a premium on honesty, fortitude, and creative risk-taking. Throughout his impressive career, he has demonstrated these qualities himself. That, after all, is the most alluring trait.